Many of us believe that the refrigerator is the best place to keep our groceries fresh for as long as possible. And while that's true for many foods, there are some surprising exceptions. In fact, storing certain foods in the fridge can actually cause them to spoil faster or lose quality. In this video, we'll explore the foods that you shouldn't refrigerate and share tips on how to store them properly to maintain their flavor and freshness. So let's get started. Number 1. Tomatoes. Tomatoes are often referred to as climacteric fruits. This means they continue to ripen after they're picked. Cold temperatures disrupt this process, inhibiting the production of those volatile compounds that give tomatoes their vibrant flavor and aroma. As a result, you might end up with a mealy, bland tomato, a far cry from the juicy, flavorful peak it could have reached. Now, there are some situations where the fridge might be a temporary solution. If your tomatoes are already perfectly ripe and you won't be using them for a few days, the fridge can buy you some extra time. But take them out well before using them. Let them come to room temperature for at least an hour. This allows the flavor and aroma to return, ensuring your dish gets the full tomato experience. The best way to store tomatoes? Keep them on the counter at room temperature. Ideally, store them stem side down on a plate or in a shallow basket. This helps distribute their weight and prevents bruising. If you have some not quite ripe tomatoes, you can speed up the process by placing them in a brown paper bag with an apple or banana. These fruits release ethylene gas, a natural ripening agent. Number 2. Potatoes. While it might seem logical to store them alongside other veggies in the crisper, the cold can actually turn them mushy and dull their flavor. Potatoes contain starches that convert to sugars at cooler temperatures. This conversion leads to an increase in a specific type of sugar called maltose, which contributes to an unpleasant sweet taste and a mealy texture. So, where do potatoes belong? A cool, dark place, but not the fridge. Aim for a pantry or cabinet that stays out of direct sunlight. Ideally, keep them in a well-ventilated container, like a mesh bag or a cardboard box with holes. This allows air circulation and prevents moisture buildup, which can lead to spoilage. Now, there are a few exceptions. If you've already cut your potatoes, like for fries or wedges, then the fridge is a good temporary solution to prevent browning. But remember, use them within a day or two, as even prepped potatoes can get mushy in the cold over time. Number 3. Onions. Onions are like little sponges. They readily absorb moisture. The cold, damp environment of a fridge accelerates this process, leading to a breakdown of the onion cell walls. The result? Soft, mushy onions that lose their crisp texture and sharp flavor. So, where do onions belong? Ideally, store them in a wire basket or a mesh bag in your pantry. This allows for air circulation and prevents moisture buildup. Remember, onions don't need to be kept in complete darkness, but avoid direct sunlight, which can cause them to sprout. There are a couple of things to keep in mind, though. First, never store onions with potatoes. Both vegetables give off gases that can accelerate spoilage in each other. Second, if you've already cut an onion, the fridge is okay for short-term storage, but only for a day or two. Wrap it tightly in plastic wrap or store it in an airtight container to prevent the strong onion odor from permeating other foods. Number 4. Honey. Honey has a remarkably low moisture content, typically less than 18%. This, combined with its natural acidity, creates an environment extremely hostile to bacteria, the main culprit behind spoilage. Essentially, honey acts as a self-preservative. Honey's natural preservation power means it has a remarkably long shelf life. Stored properly, honey can stay fresh for years, even millennia. Archaeologists have discovered jars of honey entombed with Egyptian pharaohs that are still edible, a testament to honey's incredible stability. The original container it comes in usually works well, or any airtight glass jar will do. Glass is ideal because it won't react with honey or absorb any odors. Avoid storing honey in metal containers, as this can cause it to oxidize and develop an off flavor. Now, refrigeration isn't necessarily harmful to honey, But it's not ideal either. The cold temperatures can cause honey to crystallize more quickly. While this crystallization is perfectly safe and the honey can be easily warmed back to a liquid state, it can be a textural turnoff for some. Number 5. Bread. Bread is all about texture. That satisfying crust and fluffy interior come from a delicate balance of moisture content. The cold air in the fridge can quickly dry out bread, turning it stale and crumbly much faster than at room temperature. This is especially true for artisan breads and baguettes that rely on a crisp exterior. However, there are some situations where the fridge can be a helpful tool. If you won't be using your bread for several days, or if it's a particularly large loaf and you know you'll have leftovers, the fridge can buy you some extra time. In that case, tightly wrap the bread in plastic wrap or store it in a sealed container to prevent it from drying out. But remember, this is just a temporary solution. Take the bread out of the fridge at least an hour before serving to allow it to come to room temperature and regain its optimal texture and flavor. For the best results, aim to store bread at room temperature. An ideal spot is a cool, dry area on your counter out of direct sunlight. A bread box can be a great option as it allows for some air circulation while still protecting the bread from drying out. However, avoid storing bread in a tightly sealed plastic bag, as this can trap moisture and promote mold growth. Number 6. Basil. Basil is a delicate herb that doesn't respond well to cold temperatures, which can cause it to wilt and turn black. One effective method is to treat basil like fresh flowers. First, trim the ends of the stems, then place the basil in a glass or jar of water, just like you would with a bouquet. Make sure the leaves stay above the waterline to prevent them from becoming soggy. Once you have your basil in water, cover the whole setup loosely with a plastic bag. This creates a mini greenhouse effect, maintaining the right humidity around the basil without exposing it to the cold, dry air of the fridge. You can place this jar in the refrigerator or leave it out on the counter. If you choose to refrigerate, ensure the temperature isn't too cold, as basil prefers slightly warmer conditions. This way, your basil can stay fresh for about a week. Remember to change the water every couple of days to keep it clean and fresh. If you notice any leaves starting to wilt or turn black, simply remove them to keep the rest of the basil healthy. Number 7. Coffee. Like onions, coffee beans act like little sponges, readily absorbing aromas and flavors from their surroundings. The cold, damp environment of a fridge is a breeding ground for unwanted odors. Coffee beans can easily pick up these odors too, leading to a dull and potentially off-flavored brew. The solution? A cool, dark, and airtight container at room temperature is ideal. This creates the perfect environment for them to maintain their peak freshness. Opt for an opaque container, as light can also degrade coffee's delicate oils and aromas. Glass jars or ceramic canisters work well, but avoid storing coffee in clear plastic containers that allow light to penetrate. Here's an additional tip. Buy whole beans whenever possible. Pre-ground coffee has a much larger surface area, exposing it to more oxygen and leading to faster flavor degradation. Grind your beans only right before brewing for the ultimate freshness and flavor explosion in every cup. Number 8. Olive oil. Olive oil can become cloudy and solidify at cooler temperatures, which can affect its texture and usability. While this doesn't harm the oil, it can be inconvenient and messy when you need to use it. The best way to store olive oil is in a cool, dark place, like a pantry or a cupboard away from the stove or any heat sources. Light, heat, and air are the main enemies of olive oil, as they can cause it to oxidize and lose its quality over time. A dark glass bottle or a metal container is ideal for protecting the oil from light and minimizing exposure to air. If you do need to refrigerate olive oil, perhaps because you have a large quantity or live in a particularly warm climate, you can do that. But know that the oil will likely become cloudy and may solidify. When you take it out of the fridge, allow it to return to room temperature before using it. The cloudiness and any solid parts will clear up as it warms, and the oil will return to its normal consistency. Olive oil can typically last for about 18 to 24 months if stored properly. However, once opened, it's best to use it within 6 months to enjoy its peak flavor and nutritional benefits. Always check for any signs of rancidity, such as an off smell or taste, which indicates that the oil has gone bad. Number 9. Avocados. Let's start with unripe avocados. These beauties are nice and firm, but not quite ready for eating. The fridge actually slows down the ripening process. So, for unripe avocados, find a cool, well-ventilated spot on your counter. You can place them in a fruit basket or on a plate. If you want to speed up the ripening process of your unripe avocado, place it in a brown paper bag with a banana or apple. These fruits release ethylene, and the bag traps the gas, creating a concentrated environment that jump-starts the avocado's ripening. Once your avocado yields to gentle pressure and feels slightly soft, it's ready to eat. However, this window of perfect ripeness is fleeting. If you won't be using your ripe avocado within a day or two, the fridge can buy you some extra time. In that case, store it whole and uncut. Cutting exposes the flesh to air, accelerating browning. The fridge can slow down this process, but for no more than a day or two. Remember to take it out of the fridge at least 30 minutes before using to allow it to soften up and reach peak flavor again. If you've used half an avocado and have leftover flesh, the fridge is your best bet for short-term storage. Brush the exposed flesh with lemon or lime juice to minimize browning. Wrap it tightly in plastic wrap or store it in an airtight container to further reduce air exposure. This will help it last for a day or two, but be aware that some browning is inevitable. Number 10. Garlic. Garlic prefers a dry, dark, and well-ventilated environment, similar to the conditions it grows in. Keeping it in the fridge exposes it to moisture, which can accelerate spoilage and cause unwanted sprouting. The best way to store garlic is to keep it in a cool, dry place, such as a pantry or a cupboard. Make sure the storage area has good ventilation. You can use a mesh bag, a basket, or a paper bag with holes to allow air circulation. Whole bulbs of garlic stored this way can last for several months. If you've already broken the garlic into individual cloves, you can still store them in a similar manner, but they won't last as long as whole bulbs. Keep the cloves in a dry, well-ventilated container and use them within a week or two for the best flavor. For peeled or chopped garlic, refrigeration is an option, but it requires proper storage to maintain freshness. Place the peeled or chopped garlic in an airtight container and keep it in the fridge. It should stay fresh for about a week. Be aware that refrigerated garlic can lose some of its flavor over time. Garlic paste is another convenient way to store garlic. Blend peeled garlic cloves with a bit of oil to form a paste, then store it in an airtight container in the fridge. This paste can last for about a week and is great for quickly adding garlic to recipes. Number 11. Chocolate. When chocolate is exposed to the cold, it can develop a whitish coating known as bloom. This happens because the fat or sugar in the chocolate separates and rises to the surface due to the changes in temperature and humidity. While bloom doesn't affect the safety of the chocolate, it can alter its texture and appearance, making it less enjoyable to eat. The best way to store chocolate is in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight and strong odors. Ideal storage conditions for chocolate are between 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, with a humidity level below 50%. A pantry or cupboard away from heat sources is usually perfect. Keeping chocolate in its original packaging or in an airtight container will protect it from exposure to air and moisture, which can help preserve its flavor and texture. Milk chocolate and white chocolate are generally more sensitive to temperature fluctuations. Store them in a place that stays consistently cool, ideally on the cooler side of the recommended temperature range. Dark chocolate, with its higher cocoa content, is a bit more forgiving. You can store it within the entire recommended temperature range. Once you've opened a chocolate bar or box, it's even more susceptible to absorbing odors. Tightly reseal the packaging or transfer it to an airtight container before storing it in your cool, dry haven. Number 12. Citrus fruits. Citrus fruits have a natural waxy coating on their skin that helps them retain moisture and stay fresh at room temperature. Refrigeration can actually be counterproductive if you've already cut a lemon, lime, or grapefruit for use in a recipe. The fridge can be a temporary solution for a day or two. The exposed flesh is more susceptible to drying out, and the fridge can help slow down this process. Wrap the cut side tightly in plastic wrap, or store it in an airtight container to prevent it from drying out or transferring its strong odor to other foods. On the other hand, if you live in a particularly hot and humid climate, storing uncut citrus fruits in the fridge can be a good option. The cooler temperature can help extend their shelf life slightly. However, it's still important to take them out of the fridge at least an hour before using them to allow their flavor and aroma to return to their peak. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to support our mission to help improve your health. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.